Period, Mr. Speaker, and I will come back for the rest of the story, as they say.
More.
There you go. I appreciate the member. When the member for Saskatoon Grasswood comes back, he'll have 16 minutes and 32 seconds to bring his point forward. Again, I want to remind folks as you come into the chamber to keep the volume down so that these SO31s or these statements, of course, can proceed. Merci. Statements by members. The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to share with you today about my friend, Roger Farwell. Roger was not only an architect, community builder, and champion for arts and culture, he was deeply devoted to his family and his community. He passed away tragically last summer, and yesterday family and friends came together to celebrate his life and legacy. Waterloo Region is known as a barn-raising community where people come together to support each other. Over his life, Roger received nearly every prestigious award our community offers to recognize leadership and service, including our highest honor, inspired by former Governor General David Johnston, the Barn Raiser Award. Roger was the consummate barn raiser. He gave to others, worked quietly behind the scenes, and expected nothing in return. In so many ways, Roger was the best of our community. As we continue to mourn the loss of Raj, I want to extend my deepest condolences to his wife Kathy and the rest of his family. We send you all our love and wish you strength as you continue to grieve. Together, we'll do our best to make Roger proud.
The honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, seat is Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is blessed with stunning natural beauty, vibrant cities, and diverse cultural gatherings that draw people from around the world to experience. Before the pandemic, the tourism industry employed 1 out of every 11 Canadians. From the slopes of Whistler, the Calgary Stampede, Le Vieux-Port de Montréal, and Gros Morne in Newfoundland, chances are that tourism is one of the most important parts of your local economy and a source of immense pride for your community to welcome visitors. This week is National Tourism Week. And as we celebrate National Tourism Week, I invite every member in this House and every member in the other place to join me in the Panorama Room at the Delta Hotel for a reception hosted by the Parliamentary Tourism Caucus and the Tourism Industry Association of Canada to share some food and drinks from across our great nation and to talk about how we can jumpstart tourism in Canada and again, once again, share our beautiful country with the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, human trafficking remains a vicious and growing crime in every corner of this country and within 10 blocks of where you live. It must end. Today, I'm pleased to recognize the work of one of the great heroes in the fight against human trafficking, the former Member of Parliament, Joy Smith. For years, Joy was relentless in raising this issue in this House and being the champion of victims and survivors. During her time as MP, she had 1 motion and 2 private members' bills adopted that strengthened Canada's human trafficking laws. Joyce also initiated the former Conservative government's National Action Plan to combat human trafficking. As a former teacher, Joy has always said that education is our greatest weapon. Since leaving office, she has continued to fight human trafficking through the Joy Smith Foundation, educating thousands of Canadians and supporting countless survivors. Last year, Joy's foundation launched the National Human Trafficking Education Centre, which provides courses for teachers, parents, and frontline responders. Joy, thank you for your tireless work to stand up for the vulnerable and to secure freedom for those enslaved. Thank you.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Well done. 75th anniversary of the Canadian Rangers. They are dedicated, courageous men and women, and they are Canadian Armed Forces members. They live and work in remote, isolated, and coastal regions of Canada, and they are trained and ready to serve. This year, they celebrate a major milestone of loyal service to Canada. They are 5,000 strong, and they serve in more than 200 communities across Canada's north. And I want to thank all of those who serve in the Canadian Rangers. We see them in times of crisis like search and rescue operations and natural disasters. We see them helping communities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. and we see them in times of celebration as they mark the extreme events of Canada's military history. They're always there to support their communities and to support Canada's northern regions. So I ask members of Parliament to join me in extending our thanks and our appreciation to all those who serve in the Canadian Rangers and the Junior Canadian Rangers for Canada for the past 75 years.
Thanks, Kath.
The Honourable Member for Beauport Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, this week is National Tourism Week. Tourism is recognized as a key sector of the economy in Quebec alone. Tourism generates more than $15 billion in spin-offs and provides a livelihood for more than 40,000 enthusiasts in 25,000 companies. The last 2 years have been particularly difficult, and it's now time to look forward. Our industry has to keep its competitive edge internationally. It is ready and safe. Every day, miracles are happening to offer an experience that meets the expectations of tourists. Let's support these companies. Together, let's promote our corners of the world. Quebec, with its wide spaces, its history, its good food, and its French accent, make it so charming, and it's ready to welcome you with the same warmth and good humor as before. Happy National Tourism Week to all. The Honourable Member for Gatineau. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to announce the 10th anniversary of the Multicultural Entrepreneurs Action Network, which promotes culturally diverse entrepreneurship. Through their excellent work, the members of the management and staff over the years have enabled immigrants in our community to integrate, and they offer support to immigrants. On May 24th, I was able personally to mark this important anniversary with the launch of their 2022 program, and I have seen their support over the years. To their entire team there and all of their administration and the many volunteers, you help immigrant entrepreneurs thrive. Thank you. Happy 10th anniversary to the whole team. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After winning the Canadian Championship in 2019 and then 2 cancelled seasons, the Brooks Bandits are once again the Canadian Junior Hockey League national champions. 2022, they scored 109 points in regular season. In the playoffs, in 4 rounds, they went 12-1. This is their 5th Alberta Junior Hockey Championship in 10 years. Yesterday with a 4-1 victory to finish undefeated in the Centennial Cup final. Back-to-back champions, 3rd in 10 years. Congratulations to everyone in the organizations, players, coaches, and management. They focus on education and scholarship and attracted young talent and furthered the players' educational and career goals. You're doing the City of Brooks, County Newell, the Bow River Riding in Alberta proud while forging a legacy in junior hockey. Next year, the Bandits are going for 3 in a row. Go Bandits!
The Honourable Member, Niagara Centre.
Mr. Speaker, representatives of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence stakeholders community are today visiting Parliament Hill to share their vision for the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence. Then, later tonight, we are hosting an event for MPs, senators, and staff to learn more about the triple bottom line impacts of this massive freshwater system. Representatives from the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, the OFAH, the Council of the Great Lakes Region, the Ontario Commercial Fisheries Association, and more will be on hand to take questions and to showcase the great things happening in the area. These resources are binational treasures that we hold in trust for future generations. They support hundreds of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in trade and economic output. They are a source of clean drinking water for millions, and they are part of an environmental trust we all share. Thanks to these groups for helping to keep the Great Lakes great, and thanks to all members of this House for supporting this essential work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
honourable member for Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Jewish Heritage Month, I would like to recognize and celebrate Jewish culture, heritage, and history in Canada. Jewish Canadians have made and continue to make important contributions to the socio-economic development of Canada. I would like to recognize and thank Rabbi Mendel Bloom of Ottawa Torah Centre and the leadership team at Congregation Beit Tikal of Ottawa for their services to the Jewish community and beyond in Ottawa. I would like to recognize and thank Andrea Friedman of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa for her services to the Jewish Canadian community. I also would like to recognize and thank Corey Balsam for his hard work representing the independent Jewish Voices Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, I am rising today to recognize a local legend in Alberta municipal politics, Helen Posty. Helen left office last year after 30 years as mayor of Eckville and a total of 35 consecutive years on council. While Helen may be leaving the job she held, which spanned 5 different decades, she certainly isn't leaving her role as a public servant. I know Helen will continue to be a cherished volunteer, lending her expertise to a number of community groups and boards. Over the course of her career, Helen saw the transition from typewriters to Zoom meetings and has a list of accomplishments that anyone in this chamber would be envious to call their own. From being instrumental in bringing family and community support services to town, overseeing the creation of multiple subdivisions, a new water treatment plant, countless new pieces of community infrastructure, and the new fire hall with ambulance personnel quarters, there isn't much she hasn't done. Thank you, Mayor Posty, Helen, for being a shining example of what public service ought to be.
There we go, Helen. The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, this week is National Accessibility Week, where we get to celebrate the tremendous contributions of persons with disabilities and to highlight the work of Canadians and organizations working together to remove barriers in communities across Canada. That was the case last Saturday in my hometown with the official opening of the Faro Riverside Miracle Park. Miracle Park is the first fully accessible park, playground, and baseball diamond in Windsor, and it has already brought countless smiles and pride to our community. So many stepped up to make this miracle happen, inspired by the leadership of Riverside Minor Baseball and the generosity of families, including the Faro, Soltz, and Toldo families, among others. Bill Kell, the Miracle Park co-chair, said, "No matter how big or small, you made a difference." Mr. Speaker, I urge all my colleagues and all Canadians to highlight the miracles happening in their communities during this year's National Accessibility Week celebrations. Thank you.
The honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, recently the Supreme Court struck down life without parole for mass murderers, dealing yet another blow to victims' rights in Canada. When I first heard this, I was shocked, then I got angry. I later spoke with my constituent Charlene Bosma, whose husband Tim was brutally shot in the head and then incinerated in 2013. The murderer, who also killed his father and girlfriend, was then convicted and sentenced to life in prison for 3 consecutive 25-year sentences. Charlene believes she would never have to go through a parole hearing in her lifetime, but the murderer will now be able to apply for parole in just 16 years and thereafter every 2 to 5 years. This is re-victimization. This dangerous and disappointing ruling essentially gives would-be mass murderers the license to kill at will because our Supreme Court believes in the dignity of the offender over the well-being of victims' families. This decision should outrage all parliamentarians. I urge the government to think of the Bosma family and bring balance back to our justice system.
The honourable member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
If you want to know how much you need something, simply take it away. That's what happened this past week in my riding of Peterborough-Kawartha in Ontario when we lost our power. And I want to take a minute to thank all of the hydro workers from locally and from all over that came to restore power. But it's also what's happened in the last 2 years to our tourism sector. When we lost tourism, we lost human connection. Not only is it responsible for 1 in 10 jobs, it is memories. And as Shadow Minister for Tourism, I'm excited to work on the All-Party Caucus. We have a lot of work to do, and I know every member in here believes in tourism because it impacts every single one of our ridings. And we have a lot to be enthusiastic about, but we have a lot of work to do. And it is my job to be critical and to put the pressure on where the pressure needs to be applied. It is time to open up Canada for business. It is time to drop the mandates, and it is time to support the industry that needs us so much. Happy National Tourism Week. Canada is the best of the best, and I am so honored to represent it.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, I have just returned from an incredible trip to Australia where, 182 years ago, 58 of our patriots were exiled because of their participation in the 1837-1839 rebellions. Courageous men, farmers, merchants, notaries, and doctors fought for a better democratic representation in the colony of Lower Canada. Two of them, Louis Dumichel and Gabrielle Chèvrefils, lost their lives. Pardoned by Queen Victoria, who recognized their status as political prisoners, all others returned home. All except one, Joseph Marceau from Naperville, who, in love with a young Australian woman, settled in Australia. The couple had 11 children and many, many descendants who, even today, proudly bear witness to their Canadian Quebec heritage. This little-known story has to be told. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Land Claims Agreements Coalition gathers in Ottawa to continue its important work developing a comprehensive modern treaty implementation framework. I'm pleased to share that among the participants is a group of leaders from the Niska Nation in Northwest BC who almost exactly 22 years ago achieved BC's very first modern treaty. After 113 years of hard work and struggle by the Simgiget and Sigadamanak, they won self-government for their people at long last. Today, the work of treaty is as important as ever, and we're reminded of the need for Canada as a treaty partner to engage in good faith and to address treaty concerns in a timely way. Joining us in Ottawa this week are Niska-Lissam's Government President Eva Clayton, Council of Elders Chairperson Herb Morvan, and over a dozen other elected leaders from the Niska-Lissam's government and the 4 Niska Village governments. I invite my colleagues here to join me in honoring these leaders' hard work and wishing them a productive week of meetings while they're in our capital. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Avignon-La Matisse-Matane-Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, last Tuesday, horror struck again in the U.S. as a gunman coldly shot 19 children and 2 teachers at a school in Texas. Our hearts are filled with empathy for the families affected by this heinous crime. But it would be wrong to think that we are safe from such things because we're on the other side of the border. If we don't act, what has become too normal in the United States could also be so here in Canada. The recent shootings in Montreal already show a disturbing trend towards a real gun culture here. The Mayor of Montreal and the Premier of Quebec have been clear. They have reiterated that handguns must be banned and that gun trafficking at the border must be tightened. With all due respect to hunters, action also must be taken against all military-style assault weapons and not just on a model-by-model basis. These types of weapons are not made for duck hunting, Mr. Speaker, and have no place in a society that ensures the safety of its citizens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, I am deeply concerned about recent events in our justice system. Someone who commits multiple murders is now eligible for parole as though they had committed only one. Extreme intoxication can be a defense for sexual and violent crimes. And one that recently hit me most when I reread it just this morning, a case from a few months ago, a 7-year-old child sexually victimized by her own mother. Her childhood was stolen. Crown sought a lengthy jail sentence, but a BC judge imposed house arrest. Why? The offender had no criminal record, not uncommon in these types of offenses. The offender was intoxicated, and worse, the judge reasoned that it happened only once. One time is too many. This 7-year-old child may now have a psychological life sentence, while the person who is supposed to protect her avoids a jail cell. I have 3 words for this government: change this now.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vaginas and vulvas are a source of strength, empowerment, and pleasure. Yet throughout our lives, we've been taught that the terms vulva and vagina do not have a place in polite conversation. That's one more way that the bodies of over half the world's population are stigmatized, sexualized, and objectified. With the recent news in the United States regarding Roe versus Wade, conversations about sexual and reproductive health are more important than ever, and it starts here on Parliament Hill. We need to reclaim space in health, research, politics, policy making at the doctor's office to celebrate the power of vulvas and vaginas. It's 2022 and we shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed to talk about our bodies. Join me, the MPs from Winnipeg Centre, Saanich Gulf Islands, Shefford, Senator McFedrin and Action Canada as we jointly host a celebration on May 31st to reclaim the conversation and celebrate vulvas and vaginas as powerful and important.
Oral questions. Question orale. Honorable député.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, for the Conservatives, the rights of victims should always take precedence over the rights of criminals. On Friday, the Supreme Court rendered a disappointing verdict that will allow violent criminals, serial killers like Alexandre Bissonnette and Justin Bourque to walk the streets again, despite life sentences. They murdered 9 people, Mr. Speaker. The victims will never be able to walk the streets with members of their family. Will the Prime Minister commit to doing everything to ensure that the perpetrators of mass shootings serve sentences commensurate with the crimes they commit? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the pain that has been caused to the families, particularly within that community in Quebec, but also the community across Canada. We must remember, Mr. Speaker, that the fact that they are eligible for parole does not mean that they will be given parole. The Parole Board of Canada will determine whether Alexandre Bissonnette, like any other sentenced murderer serving time, will be eligible, in fact, to get parole. We respect this clear and unanimous decision made by the Supreme Court of Canada. The court clearly indicated that it was a cruel and unusual punishment. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. In 2015, the Prime Minister promised to make life more affordable for everyone. 7 years later, here's the report card. Gas costs twice as much. House prices have doubled. Groceries cost a fortune. Inflation has gone from 1.1% to 6.8%. And with the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker, the government itself is taking money from the pockets of Canadians. The facts speak for themselves. Under the Liberals, more and more Canadians cannot pay their bills. What is the Prime Minister going to do to help the middle class and those who are paying more and more money to stay in it? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we understand, as do all Canadians, that inflation is a global phenomenon, but we also understand that this is causing trouble and suffering for Canadian families. That is why our government has taken action. Our budget includes concrete measures like dental care for Canadians, a one-time $500 payment for people having access to housing issues, the implementation of a tax credit for renovating multi-generational housing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. A lot of nothing. The government's responses to inflation, rising gas prices, rising food prices and housing prices, severely lacking in compassion for Canadians. And it's comparing ourselves to other countries is not the way to help families struggling to make ends meet at the end of each month.
The government is one of the biggest beneficiaries of inflation because it's collecting more and more taxes from Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Instead of continuing to fill its coffers on the backs of everyone else, will the Prime Minister give some respite to Canadians and lower taxes? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we have no lessons to learn from the Conservatives when it comes to helping Canadians, the most vulnerable Canadians. We put in place benefits that have allowed Canadians with children to have more money. We have also helped many people who are seniors. We are helping vulnerable Canadians, and we will continue to do that.
Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Speaker, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia are all acting on high gas prices. Even Germany slashed its fuel tax by $16 billion. Our Canadian government, zip, zero, nothing, nada. Conservatives proposed exempting GST from fuel to give Canadians a break at the pumps, but the Spend EP Liberals voted against it. Will this Prime Minister take a cue from other G7 leaders and start acting on high gas prices, or is the only acting that he enjoys doing these days is playing a Prime Minister on TV?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that inflation is a global phenomenon. We understand that it is very much driven today by Putin's illegal war in Ukraine, and that is why we are so active on that issue. But we also understand it is causing real hardship for Canadian families, and that's why our government has acted. We created the CCB, which is indexed to inflation, and now a single mother with 2 children will receive up to $13,666 from this benefit. OAS indexed to inflation going up by 10% this year, and of course, early learning and childcare, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
More recycled talking points aren't going to help people on low income due to inflation. Nearly half of all Canadians say skyrocketing grocery bills are making it impossible to feed their families, and food banks are at a breaking point. Economists say inflation started in meat products, but now it's broadened to the most common food items due to rising gas prices. Will the Spend EP Liberals cut taxes at the pumps to help curb grocery inflation, or was it their plan all along, Mr. Speaker, to simply pass it on, the burden, to food banks?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the most vulnerable Canadians, precisely the people who need to rely on food banks, we will take absolutely no lessons from the Conservatives when it comes to supporting them. In 2015, when we formed government, more than 5.1 million Canadians lived in poverty. In 2019, the last year for which we have figures, that number had dropped to below 3.8 million. We have programs indexed to inflation, supporting the most vulnerable, and there's more support in the budget, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the cat is out of the bag. The Liberals have finally announced that they will challenge Quebec's Bill 21 as soon as it goes to the Supreme Court. They're in such a hurry to challenge the bill that they announced it before the case even went to the courts. They couldn't contain themselves. I quote the Premier of Quebec. This is an egregious lack of respect for Quebecers. Mr. Speaker, Bill 21 on state secularism was passed by a majority of members of the National Assembly who represent a majority of Quebecers. What does this government not understand about the concept of democracy? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, starting from the start, we announced when there were concerns about the preventive use of the notwithstanding clause, and we clearly said this from the beginning, and I said it clearly the other day when I announced that we were going before the Supreme Court if the decision was made was going to go before the Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, it's very important to respect democracy and to look at legal competence and the Constitution. We have concerns with Clause 33, and we will defend the rights of Canadians. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. I hope that he is upset. The Liberals are accusing Quebec of causing problems. Yet just last week, they launched a full-scale attack on Bill 21 on secularism. 2, they suggested they attacked Bill 96 on the protection of French. And 3, they refused all of Quebec's demands to better integrate its immigration. 3 slaps in the face of Quebec's democracy. That's what they did. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals want to prevent Quebec from acting to protect our secular and francophone society. They want to prevent the MPs in Quebec City from doing what Quebecers are asking them to do. Who, in fact, is looking for a fight? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I'm a Quebecer. Quebecers from different spheres, Anglophones, Francophones, legal experts, doctors, other actors in the health field have all expressed concerns, Mr. Speaker, with Bill 96. We said that we would follow the implementation of the bill to see whether this does trample on the rights of Canadians as they are protected under the Constitution. That's doing our duty. I would like to remind everybody who likes the vigorous debate not to start a fight. The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby. 7 years, Justice Deschamps has made specific recommendations on how the government should deal with misconduct and sexual harassment in the Canadian Armed Forces. 7 years that the report has been gathering dust on some shelf while the government does nothing. And in the meantime, their inaction continues to have devastating consequences for women in the military. Justice Arbour has just today tabled a new report on this situation. How much time will it take for the government to take action and to put in place these recommendations? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Ms. Arbour for her detailed report, which will be the cornerstone of our efforts. I accepted the report fully, Mr. Speaker. I spoke with the Prime Minister this morning, and we are fully in agreement with these important issues that have been identified by Ms. Arbour. My priority is to build an institution where everyone can work in safety and security, feel protected, and be respected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 7 years since Justice Deschamps provided specific recommendations on how the government could address sexual misconduct and harassment in the armed forces. 7 years, and we saw brave women come forward while this government covered for powerful men at the top. This failure has devastating consequences for service women and emboldens abusers. Service members have endured incredible harm. The government stood by while careers and lives have been destroyed. Will the minister apologize to service members specifically for her government's failure to address the toxic culture in the Canadian Armed Forces?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I thank Madame Arbour for her comprehensive and detailed report, which will be the cornerstone of our culture change efforts going forward. This morning, I accepted her report in its entirety, Mr. Speaker. I spoke with the Prime Minister, and at the outset, let me be clear that we wholeheartedly agree with the significant issues identified by Madame Arbour. My top priority is to build a military where everyone who puts on a uniform for our country can work in a safe, respected, and protected manner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Conservatives have been asking this government to release the metrics and the science they've been using to justify the travel restrictions and mandates. Last week, no one in this House could produce any. Today, at committee, the Transport Minister finally admitted that he has specific advice that led to the decisions to keep the random testing of 4,000 passengers a day and the mandates for domestic travel in place. If he has it, why is it a secret? And will he tell everyone in this House what his colleagues were unable to tell us last week?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Il n'y a pas de secret.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's no secret the data are available. Let's take an example. 173,000. This is the number of deaths that could have avoided if in the United States they had a higher vaccination rate as we do in Canada. That said, Mr. Speaker, in Canada, we need to make even greater efforts. Our vaccination rate for the third dose will continue to rise to protect ourselves from the pandemic.
Well, our airports are still in the news for their worsening delays, and the minister blames travelers, and the parliamentary secretary has now taken to blaming stakeholders. He has the health advice, but no one is allowed to see it. That means it's a secret. This prime minister once said that Canadians deserve the most transparent and open government in the world. Would the minister describe refusing to release the scientific evidence as actions of the world's most transparent government, or will he just do the right thing and get back to pre-pandemic normal?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm always pleased to talk about science. It's an extremely important context. The number of 138,000 hospitalizations that in the UK that were avoided because of their vaccination rate. They need to protect their families. Thank you.
Major Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, this government refuses to tell Canadians what scientific advice they have received in regards to travel mandates, if any. Worse yet, while denying and delaying, they're ignoring programs like Nexus that significantly reduce wait times during travel. Just this morning, the Canadian Press reported that the backlog of applications has ballooned to nearly 300,000. Wow. Why does this government have so much trouble handling the basic things Canadians expect of them?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A basic number, 690,000. That's the number of hospitalization, Mr. Speaker, which the United States would have avoided just in the last few months during Omicron had they had a high vaccination rate as the one we have in Canada. As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, there is more work to do because, unfortunately, however difficult it may be for some to hear and understand, the pandemic is still with us and we need to keep fighting it.
Listen to the applause from the back.
We'll just take a spot and then wait a second here. All right, we're good. The Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, Sandra recently experienced the mismanagement of Toronto Pearson International Airport firsthand. She waited on the tarmac, the lines were long and confusing to navigate, the CBSA were stressed, passengers were angry and agitated, and nobody knew what to do or where to go. She said it was embarrassing as a Canadian having new people come to our country, and this is their first experience and impression. This week is Tourism Week, but we need to do better to welcome tourists. Will the Liberal government restore travel confidence and help with airport delays and vote to drop the mandates?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Speaker, I know how frustrating delays at airports have been for Canadians and travellers. It's something that we're taking very seriously. Mr. Speaker, we're witnessing similar phenomena across the world. Airports all over the world are experiencing this, but we are taking action. Mr. Speaker, we hired over 400 CATSA employees. We've convened CBSA, CATSA, airports, airlines to work together on bottlenecks to address this. We're investing in resources. We're addressing procedures. We want to make sure that every Canadian is able to travel safely and efficiently. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm hearing lots of comments. If you want to get on the list to ask questions, I'm sure talk to your whips and your groups. You'll get on the list to ask questions. The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, from passport delays, airport backlogs to unnecessary travel mandates, the Liberals are continuing to create an environment of uncertainty for our small business owners, and businesses are raising the alarm on serious impacts. Business leaders in Toronto stated, quote, "The current travel experience will have detrimental and lasting impacts on how Canada is viewed on the international stage." And at Industry Committee, a tourism spokesperson implored government officials to take action. Will the government take immediate action, or are they okay with continuing to hurt small businesses and throwing away hundreds of thousands of tourism jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, the last 2 years have been very difficult on Canadians. The pandemic, once in a 100-year event, has caused significant disruption to our businesses and to our lives. our government was there helping small businesses, supporting Canadians during a very uncertain period. We will continue to do whatever it takes to protect Canadians. We are glad to see businesses come back to normal, Mr. Speaker. We're glad to see economy is booming. We're glad to see unemployment at lowest record in history. We will continue to support Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, we're working on it, just simply does not cut it. The expected jump in travel should have been foreseen, and people have lost confidence in traveling to and in Canada. Other countries are dealing with it just fine. In Canada, the union representing many airport workers stated, quote, airport delays are here to stay for the long term. Small businesses have faced a death by 1,000 cuts thanks to the Liberals. These long-term airport delays and ongoing mandates will further squeeze them. When will the small business minister defend against the transport minister's unfair and extreme made-in-Canada travel delays?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Around the world, people are looking to travel after being home for 2 years. This is something that's not just happening in Canada. In fact, when you look at passport processing times in other countries, in the United States, for example, it's 9 to 11 weeks. When you look at the UK, it's a minimum of 10 weeks. When you look in Sweden, it's actually 27 and a half weeks before you can get a passport. Mr. Speaker, around the world, in countries like Canada, people are looking to travel. They all want to do it at the same time, and passport systems around the world are struggling with this demand. But here in Canada, we're doing everything we can to meet it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly hadn't even voted on its Bill 96 when the Prime Minister was already suggesting that he might challenge it in court. Let's make one thing clear, regardless of our differences of opinion, Bill 96 was adopted democratically by a majority of elected officials. It's a democratic choice. It responds to the clearly expressed will of Quebecers that French be better protected. But above all, it's a democratic choice that belongs to all Quebecers, not to a handful of federal politicians. Quebec's democracy has spoken. Will this government respect it? The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, I too am a Quebecer, and I have the right to express my opinion, like Quebecers in different spheres of activities, lawyers, healthcare professionals, other experts. They have all spoken against Bill 96. Mr. Speaker, we all want to protect French. We must all protect French. That's exactly what our Bill C-13 seeks to do in Quebec and across the country. Mr. Speaker, we will follow the implementation of this bill, as I said, to ensure that it does not exceed the jurisdiction of Quebec. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are not content to simply issue threats against Bill 96. They're already working to dismantle it. While Bill 96 imposes the Charter of the French language on businesses under federal jurisdiction, the Liberals are offering them a way out in their own bill, C-13. C-13 will allow federal companies to continue to work in English in total disregard for Quebec's laws. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to language, the Liberals' actions speak for themselves. Why are they encouraging the Anglicization of Quebec instead of protecting French? The Honourable... one moment, please. And there are two ministers who are fighting here. The Honourable Minister. Not going to talk about a quarrel again, Mr. Speaker. What we're talking about here is contempt for democracy and the difference of opinion. Mr. Speaker, here we have 35 Quebec MPs who are elected by Quebecers that reflect the opinion of their constituents, and they're entitled to speak their minds. And it's not because we're doing that, we're for the Anglicization or for Frenchification. We doing this work every day, but it's not up to the Bloc to decide who is a real Quebecer and who isn't. A Quebecer is a Quebecer is a Quebecer. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, a real Quebecer defends French and Quebec culture. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the Liberals' actions regarding French and the appeal for, or the call for candidates to find a new CRTC chair. They wrote that proficiency in both languages would be preferable, not mandatory, preferable. They're making French optional for the person responsible for the regulation and future of Quebec television, as well as all our telecommunications. It's okay for them to put somebody in charge of a whole part of Quebec's culture, and that person doesn't even speak French. Do the Liberals realize their actions speak for themselves, and they speak English? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Whoa, Mr. Speaker, whoa. I think they're going a bit far. For the Liberal government, it is fundamental for the next chair of the CRTC to be able to express themselves in French, in both languages. I think it's dangerous when we talk about identity debates and the Bloc talks about who is a real Quebecer and who isn't, because beyond the quarrels they're creating profound divisions, and this is unacceptable. As parliamentarians, together we need to work for unity and social cohesion. We can have different opinions, but never, never should we seek to divide like that.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Troubling and recent Supreme Court of Canada decision allowing some of Canada's worst mass murderers to apply for parole much sooner means families are re-victimized by a vicious cycle that forces them to relive the worst day of their lives over and over again at repeated parole hearings. That includes the families of 3 RCMP officers who were killed in the line of duty in Moncton, New Brunswick in 2014. The families of victims are speaking out and standing up for their lost loved ones. Will this government do the same?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge, I thank the Honourable Member for his question, we acknowledge the pain that families go through and victims go through in these kinds of cases. Mr. Speaker, nothing in the Supreme Court's decision changes the fact that all people convicted of murder receive a mandatory life sentence. What happens here is that they are now eligible for parole after 25 years, but that does not mean, Mr. Speaker, they will get parole. It is extremely rare for people who have been convicted of multiple murders to receive parole. Mr. Speaker, it was a clear and unanimous decision by the Supreme Court of Canada. It stated that the lack of parole was cruel and unusual, Mr. Speaker, and we'll respect that.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, what is self-induced extreme intoxication? Well, according to the Women's Legal Action and Education Fund, self-induced extreme intoxication means that a person is so intoxicated that they're in a state of automatism, meaning their actions are not considered voluntary or something they can control. Self-induced means that the person chose to consume substances such as alcohol or drugs that cause their intoxicated state. Victims already have enough barriers. When is this government going to table legislation against this type of defense?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I thank the Honourable Member for her question. We are committed to keeping communities safe, Mr. Speaker, to protecting victims, Mr. Speaker, and to ensuring that their rights are protected. Mr. Speaker, we're looking carefully at the decision. I will work with the Honourable Member and members on all sides of this House in order to reach a solution. We are troubled by the decision as well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, although I would remind everyone in this House, I would remind everyone across Canada, as the Honourable Member has pointed out, that this ruling only applies in a very extreme, a small minority of extreme cases. We will act, Mr. Speaker, but we need to keep that in perspective.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Brian Olisic and 2 other victims were murdered in an armed robbery, shot point blank in the back of the head. A 4th victim survived with serious brain injuries. Brian's parents, my constituents, Mike and Diane, feel completely betrayed that this cold-blooded killer will be eligible for parole years sooner, along with other mass killers. What assurance can the Minister of Justice provide, aside from empty words, Mike and Diane and other grieving families in the face of this unjust decision of the Supreme Court?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, that decision was a 9-0 decision. It was a unanimous decision, Mr. Speaker. It was clear and unequivocal. Mr. Speaker, our heart goes out to victims, and we make the justice system better by enacting and applying laws and seeing them applied. Mr. Speaker, I remind everyone in this House, I remind everyone across Canada that eligibility for parole does not mean one will get parole. It is extremely rare that people convicted of mass murders achieve parole, Mr. Speaker. That is the fact, and we will respect the ruling of the Supreme Court.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The legacy of colonialism is deep. Former students, now parents and grandparents, told churches and governments about the loss of their loved ones. They were ignored. Unmarked graves are now being found, and many more will show the truth of what was hidden. Indigenous peoples need the resources to support each other in these traumatic experiences. Will this government provide funding directly to Indigenous organizations, communities, and families to help with healing instead of funds going to the RCMP?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As part of this comprehensive approach to supporting communities as they reel from the ongoing discoveries of unmarked graves, clearly what they've asked of us is to have a concerted approach, whether it's myself or the Minister of Indigenous Services or other departments, whether they need supports now or for the next 10 years. This is something that sadly will go on for some time. There are 70 searches and supports ongoing, and yes, we will absolutely provide those resources to communities.
The honourable member for Churchill-Kawadinuk-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 1 year since dating discovery of the remains of 215 Indigenous children at the Kamloops Residential Institution, but not even this shocked the government into action. The Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations has admitted it's been too slow. This is a pattern: clean drinking water, the housing crisis, the calls to justice. Too slow. Enough is enough. 1 year ago, this government blocked my motion calling for support for communities, including bringing in international experts like the International Commission on Missing Persons. When will this government do what's needed to help communities bring their children home?
Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Well, to the member opposite's point, clearly what we've seen in this country is a pattern of dispossession that has continued to re-traumatize and traumatize communities. And the constant denial of this reality is what characterizes today's discourse as well, Mr. Speaker. We have a duty as a society to keep opening our minds and be more respectful and show compassion to communities that are reeling, but also to provide those resources. We know that some communities aren't even ready at this point, and they may take some time, and the last thing they want to think about is any party in this House suggesting that that funding would ever stop. So I would encourage all people in this House to support our efforts in walking that with communities and supporting them in their search. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Longueuil-Saint-Hubert.
Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, like many Canadians, I have followed closely the work of our government to respond to the sexual misconduct crisis in our military institutions. Today, the Minister of National Defence presented Madame Arbour's final report regarding this issue and presented the government's path forward. As a military family, I was pleased to see our government's commitment to creating change and establishing meaningful reforms that will stand the test of time. Can the Minister of National Defence outline our government's response to Madame Arbour's report?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Thank you to the member of Longueuil-Charlemagne for her important question. Today, I announce that I have received, I welcome, and that I accept Madame Arbour's report in its entirety. And I confirmed that as an immediate step, I have accepted and the defense team will be immediately moving on to implement over 1/3 of Madame Arbour's recommendations. Mr. Speaker, this is just the beginning of our response, and I look forward to providing a further update as we strengthen and grow and improve our defense team and institutions. Thank you.
The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, last week, Morgan Fortier, creator of Canada's most watched YouTube channel, appeared before the Heritage Committee and had this to say about Bill C-11. This bill, quote, has been written by those who don't understand the industry they're attempting to regulate. Worst of all, Section 4.2 hands sweeping power to the CRTC to regulate the internet use of everyday Canadians and small businesses. Mr. Speaker, this is the creator of Canada's most watched YouTube channel, someone we should be celebrating, not holding back. Will the minister make the very simple commitment to removing Section 4.2 from Bill C-11?
The Honourable Minister of Heritage Canada.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what we're hearing at the committee is that our cultural sector needs Bill C-11. It's fundamental, Mr. Speaker, and this is what we're hearing day after day. Our musicians, our producers, our creators, they all need it, Mr. Speaker, and this is what we put forward. And it has the support of a lot of people across the country, Mr. Speaker. And I would like, for once, that the Conservative support our industries, that for once they support the cultural sector.
Order. The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, we can support the cultural sector by taking user-generated content out of this bill and letting Canadian creators thrive here at home and internationally. The Liberals claim that user-generated content won't be included in C-11, but yet the chair of the CRTC contradicted the government and said that it could regulate user-generated content. We still haven't seen the government's policy directive on C-11. The government could do that right now, release the policy directive, and confirm and make it clear the user-generated content will be excluded from Bill C-11.
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to admit that the Conservatives are very, very creative because they invent a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
because C-11 is only about the online streamers, those companies to contribute to the Canadian culture. That's it, Mr. Speaker.
They made it up,
That's it. So platforms, it's very simple. Platforms are in and users are out. That's it, Mr. Speaker. Could they please, for once, support our artists and our cultural sector? That'd be really nice.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
We find ourselves in a little bit of a dilemma here because the Heritage Minister keeps telling Canadians that user-generated content such as YouTube videos is out. But Mr. Scott, the chair of the CRTC, has said actually user-generated content is in. Both of these men cannot be correct, so I would ask the minister, please tell the truth.
But I think we'll ask the question. The Honourable Minister.
I don't think it is very parliamentary, Mr. Speaker, but I'll still, out of respect for our democracy, I'll answer the question, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. And I'm quite surprised that they quote the CRTC because they keep attacking the CRTC, like they keep attacking the CIBC. Actually, there's no institution that they don't attack,
That's
Mr.
right.
Speaker. No, it's also the Bank of Canada for some of them, Mr. Speaker. So the thing is, Mr. Speaker, that this is simply to ask streamers to contribute to our culture. That's it, Mr.
It's not for me to dissect things. All I want to do is make sure that people are listening, that people are able to ask their questions, that people are able to answer them, and that we use parliamentary language. The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Thank you. What I find interesting is that I simply asked the minister to tell the truth, but he couldn't even do that. He had to ramble on and on and on and make excuses for himself. So I'll ask the minister again. The chair of the CRTC has said that user-generated content such as Facebook videos is in, it's captured. Meanwhile, the minister has said, no, don't worry, it's not. So which one of these is reality?
All right. If we're asking someone to tell the truth, we're saying that they lie. That's basically what we're saying. It's that. So I just want to make sure people are using the best possible language in this House of Commons, so that everybody is comfortable in the direction. So we get good answers, good questions, and good answers. The Honourable Minister of Heritage Canada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that we can all agree that we may disagree on some points, but we can still respect each other, Mr. Speaker. I think that's fundamental in this House here. And Bill C-11, Mr. Speaker, once again, it's very simple. We're having those big streamers, those platforms to contribute to the Canadian culture. Why? Because that's important for us. It's important to be able to tell our stories, to keep telling those stories, Mr. Speaker. That's fundamental. That's the only thing the bill does. We hear a lot of theories, conspiracy theories, this and that. But, Mr. Speaker, we want to help our culture, and for once, I would have loved the Conservatives to help us, but I guess they won't.
The Honourable Member of Queville-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, we would all like to believe that we're safe from gun violence, that our children are protected. But in Montreal, just last week, someone opened fire on a childcare centre. Luckily, there were no victims. Luckily, this daycare centre was empty. But a gun culture is developing in Montreal. And I repeat, we cannot let this situation degenerate. The Mayor of Montreal, the Quebec Premier, and the Bloc Québécois are calling on Ottawa to finally ban handguns. When will the Minister finally do what everyone in Quebec expects him to? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question. We're working closely with the Quebec government to reduce gun violence, and the Minister of Public Safety recently attended a forum in Montreal. We've directed $46 million under our Guns and Gangs funds to the Legault government. We're finalizing a transfer under our Building Safer Communities Fund to prevent gun crime, specifically for Quebec. The Minister continues to engage directly with his counterparts in Quebec.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Public Safety has an historic opportunity with his bill this afternoon. He can ban handguns. That would already be something to counter their proliferation in Montreal. He can ban all types of military assault weapons, not just models one by one and on a piecemeal basis. He can announce new measures at the border to counter illegal weapons, which are at the heart of the problem in Quebec. Will the Minister take this golden opportunity this afternoon, or is he going to continue announcing half measures? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my honourable question, not just for her, not the honourable member, not just for her question, but for her advocacy. Handguns are the #1 type of gun used in shooting homicides across the country. And we're taking action to make sure handguns don't fall into the hands of criminals by requiring stronger background checks and investing more to stop illegal gun trafficking at the border. We'll continue to engage our provincial partners like the province of Quebec as part of a national approach to tackling handgun crime.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, a businessman in my riding, Mr. Tony Ouellette, who's the president of Feuillage Québec, relies on temporary foreign workers to make his business work. Unfortunately, only one of the 3 he hired has arrived, and nothing is moving for the other 2 in Immigration Canada. A number of planting contracts have to be done by June 15th. That's in 2 weeks. Otherwise, there will be a number of penalties. Why does Mr. Ouellette why is he the one that has to pay for this government's failures? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
The honourable member for his question, and I want to thank the employers out there who are working hard to bring workers to fill gaps in the labour force. It'll help kickstart one of the strongest economic recoveries that's already taking place. We put tons of resources into boosting the processing capacity of the department, including $85 million in the economic and fiscal update to target work permits, study permits, temporary residency visas, proof of citizenship cards, and PR cards. I'm pleased to report, Mr. Speaker, these efforts are taking hold. This year to date, we have already processed more than 216,000 work permits compared to only 88,000 this far into last year. We're starting to make serious progress. We're going to continue to make the necessary investments to grow our economy.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, this is the 20th time I rise in this House to speak to the government's incompetence in terms of immigration and temporary foreign workers. 2 businesses in my riding have called on me just this weekend to tell them that they are still missing the workers they need who should already be here in Canada. These are landscaping and manufacturing businesses who are losing contracts. When will the government finally take this matter seriously and help these businesses to develop instead of bankrupting them? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, as I just answered in response to the previous question, we're making unprecedented investments in Canada's immigration system to ensure that we can smoothly welcome people to Canada who make essential contributions to our economy. I'd like to point out to the honourable member that we are now in an economic context where we've seen 115% of the jobs lost during the pandemic come back. Our GDP is better than pre-pandemic levels, and our unemployment level is now at the lowest rate since we started recording those statistics statistics more than 50 years ago. That said, we can do more by continuing to bring workers to fill the almost 900,000 gaps in the economy and the labor market. We're going to continue to invest in our immigration system to do that. It's the path forward that will help us achieve growth.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the saga of temporary foreign workers continues. A number of businesses in my riding have received their labour market impact assessment confirmation letter on April 15th. After over 8 months of wait. That's much too long, and the process is still not finished. Mr. Speaker, the government has a duty to simplify the acceptance process of temporary foreign workers. It needs to finally walk the talk. When is it going to do so? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, we know that immigration is there to fight the shortage of labor force. Now, this week, we have processed over 200,000 work permits, which is almost the double of what was processed last year at the same time. We're going to make sure that employers have the resources they need to help the economy recover.
Member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, investing in our official language minority communities means putting in place an array of measures. As a teacher, I know that it is important to invest in education at all levels, especially post-secondary education, to ensure that there are job opportunities for Francophones when they graduate. Can the Minister of Official Languages, who proudly represents Francophone communities in this country, explain to this House how Francophone students in New Brunswick will be able to prepare for their future careers? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Fredericton for her important question. It is important to guarantee that our young people in official language minority communities have career paths that will allow them to continue to work in their own language. Last week, I had the privilege of announcing an investment of $6.6 million in projects at the New Brunswick Community College. These investments will help the Acadian and Francophone students to equip themselves with more tools to be able to progress throughout their career. Thank you.
Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, this week I spoke to Crystal. The rising cost of living is threatening her small business in Amherst. She's worked 28 of the last 30 days to make enough money to keep her business solvent. A recent errand for supplies has cost her $600 versus the usual $350 as the cost of fuel and goods has gone up. She cannot understand why the government would not support two Conservative motions to reduce fuel prices. On which date will this government remove tax upon tax and get fuel prices and cost of living under control?
The Honourable Minister.
Let me tell you what we are doing in Budget 2022 for small businesses. We're cutting their taxes. We know that businesses in Canada have recovered over 100% of the jobs that have been lost since the pandemic. Businesses are looking to grow. They're not only looking to grow in Canada, they're looking to grow through exports into the international market. We're going to work with our businesses to grow here and to scale up internationally, and we've cut their businesses, their taxes so that they can grow here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Firefighter Aid Ukraine, based on my riding of Edmonton West, has been delivering crucial life-saving equipment and supplies to Ukraine for the past 8 years. The Russian invasion has only made their work more critical. They have collected 25 tons of life-saving medical supplies desperately needed for Ukraine's doctors and hospitals. An oil and gas company has donated the transport fuel needed to get the supplies over to Ukraine. All they need is a transport plane to get it there. Will the government provide this plane?
Good question. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to making sure that Ukraine has the humanitarian support that it needs. We'll work with businesses, and I'll contact the member. My team will contact the member's staff and get the details and see what we can do. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Coast Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, the fishing industry is sick and tired of the lack of respect shown to them by this government. With the season now upon them, fishers in Coast Bay, Central Notre Dame, and in all of Newfoundland and Labrador are wondering where is the Capeland Management Plan. DFO's own science says that seals consume 99 times more capelin than fishermen harvest. This year, the capelin management plan the assessment did not happen. So with these facts in mind, will the minister confirm that she'll reinstate last year's quota for capelin, or will she listen to activists like Oceana and shut another fishery down?
Right. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Well, thank you for that question. Thank you through the Speaker. All fisheries are important. All conservation measures are intended to make sure that we maintain a healthy stock. That's the responsibility of DFO. With respect to the capelin decision, we are reviewing the science. We'll be coming out very soon with a determination for the harvesters in the coming weeks. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, last week, the 75th World Health Assembly was held in Geneva. This is the first in-person assembly since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was a perfect occasion for the delegates, WHO experts, partner agencies, and civil society to discuss current priorities and upcoming solutions on vital matters for the global health system. Can the Minister of Health tell us more about this assembly and how Canada played a priority role in vital matters for global health, the global health system? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to begin by thanking my colleague from Pierrefonds-Dollard for his excellent work. I did indeed have the opportunity to participate in the 75th World Health Assembly in Geneva, and I was able to meet with a number of my counterparts to talk about the fight against the pandemic and future pandemics. And about the effects of climate change on health, antimicrobial resistance. And I was able to meet with my counterpart, the health minister from Ukraine, to offer him our unwavering support for the healthcare system in Ukraine, because if there's no health, there's no peace, and if there's no peace, there's no health.
Mr. Speaker, our community has been begging for a 24/7 low-barrier safe space for women, girls, 2S, LGBTQIA+, for over 10 years. We are still waiting, even though the former Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations called Winnipeg ground zero for MMIWG. Last week, we had another 2 women murdered. Thoughts and prayers don't cut it. Will the minister confirm that the funding they announced Friday will be used to open a 24/7 safe space in Winnipeg and save lives now?
The Honourable Minister. Online? No? Oh, the Honourable Minister of Housing.
Speaker, on Friday we announced a historic investment of $121 million to invest in shelters and transitional housing for women and children fleeing gender-based violence. This is going to support 16 projects across the country in virtually every province and at least one territory. I'm happy to work with the honourable member to see if we can continue to support projects in Winnipeg.
Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Understandably, Russia's assault on Ukraine has dominated our foreign policy agenda, but we know it is not the only crisis. The Taliban has declared war on women and girls. They're not allowed to go to school. They're not allowed to walk down the street. Their male family members have become their jailers. This is a regime of gender apartheid. Mr. Speaker, will the government confirm that with a feminist foreign policy, the policy is not to stand back and do nothing? What does feminist foreign policy mean for women and girls in Afghanistan?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The situation Afghans are facing, in particular Afghan women and girls, is absolutely terrible. Canada condemns the Taliban suppression of women's liberty in Afghanistan. As the Taliban continues this act of discrimination, the prospects for a better life are being denied to girls. Access to education is a human right to which every woman and every girl is entitled, and the Taliban will be judged by their actions, not by their words. Thank you.
What are you going to do? And that's all the time we have for question period today. I want to make a quick comment about some of the debates that goes back and forth. A number of weeks ago, there was a question I think the member for Thornhill had asked of the Minister of Transport when they used the issue of honesty. And today we sort of ran into the issue of tell the truth. So we keep bounding on that issue. So I just want to make sure that for consistency that we watch the words that we do use in the House of Commons. I want to thank you for that. I see the honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby has a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There have been discussions amongst the parties, and I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following heartbreaking motion. The House express its horror at the school mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and extend its deepest condolences to the families, friends, and communities who lost loved ones.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. I do hear a no. No? Okay. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. I'm hearing a no. Motion is not carried.
Do we want to do it again?
Want to do it again? All right, let me say this out loud one more time, just in case people. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. I didn't hear one this time. The motion is carried. Okay. 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 It being 3:15, pursuant to order made on Thursday, November 25th, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Ms. Landsman relating to the business of supply. Call in the members. Gentlemen.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Fight for you. I appreciate it. She's bad enough as it is without the fight you do.
The question is the following one. Madame Landsman, appuyez par.
Ms. Landsman, seconded by Mr. Prasad, move that, given that Canadians are currently experiencing unacceptable wait times at Canadian airports, even though airports are still operating at reduced capacity.
Current restrictions have been cited by experts as ineffective and contributing to additional delays, costs, and confusion, as well as acute labour shortages. Canada's international allies have moved to lift COVID-19 restrictions at airports and other points of entry.